Hello and welcome to our very last episode for Season 3 of our Drone to 1K podcast. Today we have Caleb Randall of Randall Productions on the podcast with us. Caleb has been a friend of mine for several years now, and I had him on the podcast because I knew that he used drones early on in his video production career as a differentiator, and it really helped him grow. And now he has an awesome business where he does, he's done tons and tons of weddings actually, and now he does commercial kind of documentary style videos for larger businesses. So really cool to get Caleb's story, to hear about how drones have helped him and how things have evolved over time and how it's allowed him to have a full-time business in the video production world of things. So I'm excited to bring you that episode today. Sad that it is our last time for Season 3, but do not worry. We've been working on Season 4, and at the same time, we've also been working on these little mini bonus Q&A episodes that we can give you in between podcast seasons, so there's not as much of a gap in between when you can get some goodies in the drone business world. So if you want to get in on the Q&A sessions, there should be a link in the email that this podcast announcement came in, or you can go to YouTube, and the link should be in the bottom, in the description of our YouTube video. And you just answer one question about the podcast episode to prove that you listened to this week's podcast, and then you can enter a chance to win like a mini coaching call with that week's episode guest. So if you want to get in on that after listening to this podcast with Caleb and you're like, man, I want to pick his brain about, whatever, you can do that by clicking that link and just answering one question. So our little reward to you. And then if you don't win the coaching call, you can rank your what things you want, but you can get a t-shirt, hat, mug, and I think a free course from us too. So you can rank which of those you'd like. And we choose 5 winners every week, and then we announce them 1 week later because you have to get in within that first week because then we schedule those calls. But we've been recording those, and we can release those as little mini episodes. Usually they've been between about 15, 20, sometimes 25 minutes if we're talking about some good stuff. So we'll have those to release in between seasons, and then when Season 4 is done, we'll start releasing that as well. So excited to bring you today's episode. As always, if you want some really, really comfy free t-shirt or t-shirts, t-shirt, whatever, if you're just one person, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts is the best place, but if you leave it somewhere else, that's fine too. Just screenshot it, email it to George. Actually, if you don't know George, go listen to last week and you can get to know George better, but he is one of the guys that works here at Drone Launch Academy, and his email's George, Jorge, so Jorge, at dronelaunchacademy.com, and then you can copy me if you want, David at dronelaunchacademy.com, and shoot us a screen, not a screen recording, but a screenshot of your podcast review to show us that you took the time to leave one, and we'll shoot you a free shirt to say thanks. Also, one more thing, we have some mini courses on certain drones. So we have one on the Mini 2 coming out soon, and then we already have one done for the Mavic Mini. And then we have another course called Drones 101, which is like basically an overview for all drones. Normally those courses are about $50 each, but if you use the promo code podcast, all one word, you can get them for just $1, just $1. There's no tricks or gimmicks with this. It's not like you buy that and then we try to sell you a bunch of other stuff or, lock you into something. It's literally just $1, and then you can take those courses. We just try to provide little Easter eggs and nuggets of goodness for our podcast listeners. So we don't put that in writing most places or anywhere that I know of. But if you just go and you manually type in podcast as the promo code, it should bring it down from $49 to $1. So get in on that if you'd like. You can find those on dronelaunchacademy.com. Go to the top right where it says courses, and you can find those there. All right. Well, I am a little bit sad that this is the last episode. We've got some other course promos coming out at the end of this month, at the end of March. We've added a lot to our Drone to 1K course that we have, which essentially takes you from zero to a successful drone business that's consistently making money. So we go through literally every step of the process, from setting up your LLC to getting a website to building your portfolio. And then we'll have now 5 different businesses in varying industries where we deep dive into how they got clients, what they did, what marketing channels they used, the exact messages they used, all of their really, really detailed strategies. And we give you a bunch of resources in there to use the same tactics and principles that they used. So we have them in, real estate video, real estate photography, Instagram marketing. We're going to have LinkedIn marketing for more like B2B, large contracts, thermal inspections, utility inspections, infrastructure, how to get clients in construction, all those different fields. We're going to have lessons and all that. And then we at the very end have training on Google Ads and show you how to use paid advertising to get leads and clients as well. And actually, that's pretty nice because literally all you do is you download this file, you upload it into your Google account. It gives you all of our ads that we've used over the last year or two that we've been testing that we know work. You just change them for your business and you punch them in for your location and you can turn them on. And then you've got working ads. We show you how to continue to optimize those for your location, things like that. So it's a humongous course. This is not, I didn't mean to turn this into a pitch for that, but that's coming out. Or we're re-releasing that with some new stuff and some new discounts that are coming up here at the end of this month. So if you're interested in that, you can go on our website, try to find Drone to 1K if it's live, or just Google it, the Drone to 1K course, and see if you can get in there. Or if you can't find it, just email me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for hanging with me this season. Hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for more goodies about what's coming out later. If you're not already on our email list, jump on there, go to dronelaunchacademy.com, wait like 2 seconds, and a little pop-up bar will come up at the very top where you can jump on our email list. So that way you know other content that we're putting out and you can get emailed when that stuff goes live and you can find it. So thanks again. Really appreciate everyone who listens and love all the emails and comments and reviews we get, hearing how it's helped you either give you ideas, confidence, and strategies for starting your own drone business and growing that, making some money while you're doing something fun that you love, which is flying drones. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Drone to 1K podcast. Welcome back if you're a longtime listener. Today on the podcast, we have Caleb Randall of Randall Productions. Thanks for coming on, Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. What you guys don't know is that we just did this same intro and I called him Randall and not Caleb. And I've actually known Caleb for probably like 4 years at this point. So
he still gets my name wrong. So don't assume he'll remember anybody's name.
It's true. It's very true. It's hard because it's kind of like it's a little bit like a first name. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely is a first name. There's people that have the name Randall as a first name, but anyways, I messed it up. So
it's cool.
Caleb, thank you for coming on the podcast. Caleb's a friend of mine. Obviously he owns Randall Productions based on his last name. So I will let him give a little bit of background of his story and how he got started. So Caleb, why don't you just kind of start off, I don't know, go to the beginning when you got interested in drones, and then talk about kind of the company that you've started.
Sure. Yeah. So, my interest for drones, I think started back when I was really into flight simulators as a kid.
Okay.
I've always had that knack of like loving to be up in the air and flying, not a literal plane like you, David, but at least, like from the video games to the simulators. And then when, drones got started, I was like, I got to get one of these. So that's kind of where my passion came from as a kid. But I started my company in 2012 full time. So I've always been interested in video production, making videos as a kid, and then moving into graduating at about 2007. So the crash was 2008. And okay. I had a job in the media industry, video editing, and then all of a sudden it was just like, all right, sorry, you don't have a job anymore. Good luck. So I was working at a coffee shop. I was trying to sell things online to make ends meet, and then I started freelancing, doing video work for people around that time. And so I was living in St. Augustine. I didn't think that I could make a living full time doing that. So I just kind of kept it part time, looked for other jobs, and then eventually years pass and I'm getting married. And around that time, I moved to a new city, really didn't know a soul. And I was trying to look for a job with my wife and couldn't find one. And so I happened to be connected with a few wedding vendors. And I said, hey, I have a camera. Would you consider me to film your client's wedding. I could do that, whatever. And so a wedding planner took a chance on me filming a wedding, and that's kind of where it got started. One wedding a month, and then it just kind of snowballed into creating a full-time job. And I didn't have to look for another job after that.
Yeah, so I know you did at least when I met you, you were had been doing weddings for a long time. So I met you probably 3 or 4 years ago, like 2017, 2016.
Yeah.
Probably like 2017. Anyways. Mm-hmm. But you were had done tons of weddings. It seemed like when I met you, and we're kind of hoping to transition out of that to more like corporate video and ads and stuff, or, kind of promo videos and mini documentary type style videos. Why don't you tell us
marketing in general?
We'll go back and grab your story, but just so people know where you are now, kind of talk about what Randall Productions specializes in, like today.
Yeah, so we basically specialize in doing marketing and branding films. So with all of that comes a lot of different styles, from more of a typical, maybe a commercial job, to where it's an interview and B-roll, to more of a docu-style film, to where I'm going out and I'm filming an interview and then getting kind of raw clips of like a day in a life type style. So we do anything from, like, last week I DP'd on the set for a Geico commercial.
Real quick, people that are listening to this are not going to know it, or some of them are not going to know what DP means. So you're going to have to spell it out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, director of photography. It's
and what does that person
like a videographer?
Okay.
They call it.
You have a diverse drone audience here, so they're not all video production folks.
Yeah, sure. No, it's fine.
Okay. Sorry. So
like,
you were
from doing like bigger commercials to small companies, and I produce. So that means that I actually get my own clients, but I also freelance. So I work for a lot of other companies as well, who have known about me over the years, and they'll hire me for DP or drone operator, or once in a while I'll be helping out gaffing, which is doing lighting on the set, audio, things like that. So it's interesting kind of how I went from the wedding and then morphed into doing more commercial work.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so now that you know where Caleb's at, he was like crushing it with weddings, and you did a lot of weddings. Like, you were doing a ton of them, right? So you did a lot of weddings, and then transitioned out of that, and now you're doing more kind of marketing, branding, films, and video production work for people, right? So, all right, so let's rewind, take it back. So someone took a chance on you with the weddings, and then so you reached out to some wedding vendors, you said, right? So, because a lot of times what people want to know is like, how do you get clients, and how do you do that? And you're a little bit different in that you're focusing on video production a little bit more as a whole, and you're just using drones as like one of the pieces of that puzzle, right?
Right, exactly.
So this is more from the perspective of like a video production company, but still a lot of things are this similar and translate over. A lot of people that are using drones, again, are doing all these other things. So talk us through how that went with, I guess, what gave you the idea to talk to, or how did you get those connections with the wedding vendors, and how did that relationship start to where you were able to even get that first job?
Yeah, so I think it also, I know that drone operators, they're like, how do I break in? He's a production company, but I'm just an individual. But for me and our company, I subcontract out depending on the job. So I'm the face of the company. I'm just an individual. I don't have any people on my team. So I just subcontract out everything. So it is more like an individual type looking for jobs. But starting out, after moving down to Tampa, not knowing a soul, I did pick up a short-term position working for a lighting company, and they told me that they wanted to break into the wedding industry. So I kind of was putting myself out there, going to networking events, things like that, meeting people in general.
Gotcha.
And that sort of led me to knowing a few people as the months went by, and I ended up losing that job because they weren't making very many sales, and this was more of a sales position and marketing position and doing everything position. So I ended up just using sort of the connections that I made there, and then saying, hey, well, instead of working at this company, now I'm working for myself. Would you consider hiring me? Or if you ever need any services for video, let me know.
Gotcha. So you hypothetically could have done the same exact thing even if you weren't working for that other company initially, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So were you just meeting these people at conferences, or you were cold calling them, or how did that work?
Anything and everything. I mean, I would reach out via email, over the phone, networking events. I would personally meet people face to face. It was more so just trying to put my feelers out there, as I call it. Just trying to meet and greet and just make it known. Not only meeting people and telling them who I am, but meeting other people and asking how they're doing in business. I'm a business owner, and I want to see how you guys are doing. And if I can help, great. But if not, I want to support you in what you do.
Cool. So you started with the one wedding, right? How did that go? Were you good at that point? I mean, I guess you had worked previously in the industry, so you kind of knew what you were doing, right? With video.
Right. Yeah. I had several weddings before that. But
just kind of on the side, or what?
On the side, right.
Oh, yeah. I see. Okay.
Here and there. And so this one was like, a little bit more, I felt like it was risky because I was like, lots riding on this. It was a lot of pressure. And so I ended up doing, gosh, I can't even, like, it was a great wedding video. They loved it. I didn't charge that much, and they just praised me after that. And so from that wedding, that means my clients are happy. Therefore, the wedding planner's happy. And she started talking me up to a few other people who I was in that price range, other clients, other vendors in the industry. And then the next month I got another wedding.
Just by word of mouth referral.
Right. Next month I got one wedding. The following month I got 2 weddings. And then all of a sudden it just started ramping up. And I ended up after 2 years of sort of working for myself, getting clients, freelancing for other wedding like companies that needed videographers. Then I got to a point to where I could pick and choose what type of jobs that I wanted to do. And my prices, of course, went up. And so, but the main focus the entire time of ramping up my business was focusing on the relationships that I have, as well as connect at networking events and things like that.
Yeah. So with that first wedding, do you remember what you charged?
I think it was around $1,200.
Okay. And then when you quit doing weddings a couple of years ago, or how long ago was it that you quit doing weddings?
It was, I think I did my last one 2 years ago. Yeah.
And when you quit, like when you stopped, what was an average like wedding? What would you charge?
It was around $4,000 to $5,000.
Okay. So you significantly increased it over time, it sounded like.
Yeah, it was, I had to, because I didn't want to do as many weddings as I was doing, which I think the second and third year I was doing 50 weddings a year.
50? You're just working every weekend?
Pretty much. Like a few weekends, I did 2 to 3 weddings in a weekend. Like, wow. I couldn't even remember the couple's names. I'm sorry, my past clients, but you develop a client base and they see that you're reputable in the industry, and then they want to hire you, and it works out because it's a great price. So
yeah.
But then the more that I ramped up the price, the more that people realize that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, sure. I remember you showed me this one video. So a bit more context. Caleb and I used to be in the same office space, same co-working space. So right here, you see out the window. If you're watching this on the video, you can see co-working space. So Caleb, we used to just run into each other all the time, and he'd be like, "Oh, let me show you this cool video." But give us the story about, you did a wedding in Italy, right? And you got some awesome drone footage. It was like at a castle. Just tell that story real quick. That was really cool to see.
It was amazing, and people always ask me, "How'd you get that client?" Oh my gosh, it was one of my photographer buddies in the industry who ended up referring me because their client was looking for a videographer, and they were just from St. Petersburg, and they were getting married in Italy because they love to travel. And so I ended up bringing. They didn't have a huge budget, and I was just like, whatever, I'm still gonna go. I ended up bringing and setting up 3 cameras for the ceremony by myself, because usually I have a second videographer there, but they didn't have the budget for it. And so I was running around the entire day. I stayed there for about 10 days just to kind of make a little trip out of it. And then flew over to Florence, Italy, and then was filming around the city just to get B-roll. A lot of drone shots, beautiful drone shots. Everywhere is beautiful in Italy, but they ended up getting married in a castle overlooking the city. And one of the coolest things that they did, which was kind of like a ton of money that they spent, which they should have spent it on videographer, but they spent like 10 grand for a fireworks show at the end of the entire night. So it was amazing to film. And afterwards, when I sent the film, they ended up tipping me because they realized that they didn't pay me what I was worth. They tipped me like an extra grand or something.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
And they paid for your flight over there, I'm assuming, in your travel, right? Or like your
they
expenses?
Did,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Travel, and then a budget for room and board.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to put a link to that video in the show notes or on the website so you can see it. But there's some really cool drone shots because they're at a castle on this hill, so you got a lot of cool stuff like that. I just remember that being really, really neat.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I would do it again.
That's awesome. Okay, so it sounds like from the wedding side of it, did you ever use a drone at a wedding besides where there's the castle, like other weddings? Like how often were you using a drone?
When the Phantom 2 Pro came out,
okay.
that was the one that didn't have the built-in drone, but you had to get the connector for the GoPro.
So you're way back.
Yeah,
as far as drones go.
Yeah. Right when I got that one, I had several weddings that I already filmed, but I was like, man, I got this drone. Let me go back to every venue that I filmed at and just get a ton of just beautiful shots, GoPro aerial shots, and incorporate it in the film. And I knew that would immediately raise the bar for the quality of service that I offer, more dynamic shots, all that. And so once I did that, I put it in these wedding films, edited them, and then all of a sudden I started getting like these bigger clients and bigger clients and bigger clients. And there was a huge demand at the very beginning. It was like people were starting to kind of hear about drones, and then they're like, oh my gosh, wait, my wedding videographer can also film with a drone? That's pretty cool. And so the majority of the drone shots that I would get would be establishing shots, like of the venue, of the setup, of the surrounding area. And then a few times, like in that Italy wedding, I was able to say, hey, let's dedicate some time. I'll get some on the ground shots, but then I'll also, let me take a few minutes and get some aerial shots while y'all are together. And people just love that because it's so cool. So incorporating both, on the ground and in the air shots. I
was going to ask, when you think of drone at a wedding, the first picture that pops into my mind is like mid-ceremony outdoors with the drone like hovering overhead. That's not what you're doing, right? Are you doing more like B-roll type shots?
Yeah, all B-roll. I did have a couple who said, "Hey, Caleb, we know that you have a drone, but we also have a friend who drones, and he's going to fly during our ceremony, and he's going to send you the footage." And I was like, "Whatever you want to do." And it was at this high-rise hotel and this bridge over, like, connecting these two buildings, and you could hear the drone in the background while they're just getting married. And I'm like, seriously, that's just not cool. So,
wasn't great.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool to hear that even with like a GoPro. I was wondering how would that fit into your footage, the GoPro footage compare, like then you have that mixed in with your nice, like high quality cameras that you're using for the other stuff. Like, did that mix okay?
It was a little tough for sure. But at the time, nobody really has seen aerial shots.
Guess that's true.
Before GoPros, you had to hire and rent a helicopter, to go out and get aerials, which costs $50,000 plus.
Yeah, nobody's doing that with a wedding.
Right. Well, maybe some international weddings.
Most people not doing that with a wedding. Yeah,
most people. So it was tough to match the coloring and the quality, but all of my deliverables were HD anyways, and so. Gotcha. The majority of wedding clients, they're not Hollywood, they're not huge producers or anything. They don't see the big difference between.
Right. They're just like, oh, that's cool.
Right. But now, of course, the drones have caught up quality-wise to the cinema cameras, and it looks phenomenal now with the new Hasselblad lenses and all that.
Yeah. So what percentage of weddings would you say you use your drone at?
So I was doing it every wedding since I got my drone.
So after you got a drone, literally every wedding you would get drone shots.
Yeah.
And you think that played a big part in, like you were saying before, once you started doing that, you noticed that like bigger clients were coming to you. You think the drone was a part of that and not just like coincidence on timing?
Oh, 100%. They would see of course they saw my storytelling. They saw my beautiful shots that I would get. But then on top of that, the drone shots, it was the icing on the cake. That's what I would say.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I mean, it's just, I think it's nice because even if you're, in an industry that's not primarily drone, right? That adding the drone is like such a key thing to differentiate yourself. And now I know drones are becoming more and more popular, so they're not as like wow factor. Maybe they're, depending on where you are, maybe they're even expected, but even still, I think that's still a reason to make sure you have a drone in stuff.
And after several years, you start to see articles on droning, like, please, videographers, don't make half of your film that you record just drone shots.
Mix it up. Overdo it or something.
Yeah, exactly. Don't overdo it. And so I kind of incorporate that kind of mentality in films that I do now. I just get maybe a couple drone shots that may relate or make sense to get for the scene or scenario.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the story. So we're rewinding again. So you're doing weddings. What was your best year? I mean, if you're comfortable sharing, like revenue wise, when you were in the thick of weddings.
I think my best was probably around 115,000.
Like 150. So like well into easy six figures. Doing wedding video stuff.
Yeah, and it kind of shaped out around like year after year around 100.
Okay, so
just
from weddings, and then you were at that point you were charging like $4,000 or $5,000 per wedding.
No, that was more like 2,500 to 4K.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So 6 figures doing weddings, and then you decided you didn't want to do weddings anymore. So was the money just not worth the schedule hassle or what?
That, and there was just this kind of sort of mentality that I didn't want to do weddings for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You're just ready to go to the next thing.
Go to the next thing. It was a ton of work. I didn't want to grow my business into this huge wedding company like my other colleagues did. And I would see some of my old friends, they're still, doing weddings, and that's fine. But I knew that I got into filmmaking, not to do that, but to storytell, to do other things.
Yeah.
So
kind of took those same principles, storytelling, putting things together, and shifted into more of the corporate sphere, doing branding and marketing videos. So
right.
maybe talk about that, kind of switching niches almost, right? From weddings to something else.
Yeah.
Like, was that difficult? How did that transition go?
Yeah.
Did you take a dip in what you made in order to do that? Like, what happened?
Yeah. It's always difficult changing industries, and it takes time, it takes resources, it takes more connections, different connections to switch over. And so I was still I was lessening weddings while I was adding more commercial type work. And it was the same thing as starting out doing weddings as starting out doing commercial work. Somebody has to take a chance on you. Somebody has to know you, trust you, see your prior work, and hire you to do what they need. And so one of my earlier clients was Ag America Lending Company, to hire me to film sort of these branding docu-style films of farmers out in their element, and then talk, basically storytelling on how they get through a day in the life and things like that. How the majority of it wasn't how Ag America Lending related to them, but just in general, who they are and what they do.
Mm-hmm. So how did you said they were a past client. Did you had done work for them previously?
Well, it was through our co-working space when we worked together. I met the CEO, and he said, hey, at first, actually, he said, he told the photographer at the time who worked with them, I want some drone shots, see how that works, which is kind of funny that I entered working branding films for them, just droning at first. And when I brought my drone out there on the first, it was like out on this field, the Putnam, I don't know if you remember Putnam Farms. They're in, south of Lakeland, but
Okay.
But he had thousands and thousands of acres, and he wanted drone shots of these cattle ranchers riding out on their horse with their dogs and herding in the cattle. And so I just stood there, put my drone up in the air, and you could just go for miles. And they were already out in the field, and I was like, I have no idea where they are, but I can hear them because it's super early in the morning. You can hear like the the cracking the whips and these cattle. And so all of a sudden, when I'm flying over, I'm starting to kind of come in, and you see this little dot of like these tiny little animals, come into view, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just these cattle going in a specific direction, and the ranchers behind them just kind of herding them. And that ended up, after I edited that video with some cool music, it was kind of like a demo type thing I want to show them. They showed like their entire board in their company, and we're like, we got to do more of this,
That's cool.
Yeah. So it was just just something cool that they wanted to have and showcase, and ended up bringing me a lot of business after that.
That's awesome. So that was kind of your first intro into it. And again, that was just from, being around people. You said you met them from the co-working space, right? So just kind of putting yourself in a position to where people know what you do and can recommend you, refer you, and stuff like that. So
exactly.
So once you kind of got Ag America and you're kind of toning down weddings, were you charging less for your kind of branding work than you were for the wedding work, or did you try to keep it fairly similar?
Yeah, I did try to keep it similar because I knew, once you price yourself at this quality and you switch over industries, you're still that quality, but kind of need to develop more clients. And so, sure, I would kind of dock my what I would charge a few times for different businesses, but the majority of it, I kept the same style pricing as what I'm worth. Like from the hourly or the day rate of anything and everything that I did.
Yeah. So when you're not in a wedding scenario, it's kind of like most weddings have a similar structure, and you kind of know about what the time commitment's going to be.
Mhm.
So, you can kind of price on a per wedding basis.
Mhm.
I'm imagining, I don't know, I haven't shot a bunch of weddings, but when you get into like branding stuff, it seems like it might be a little less defined. You know what I mean?
Right.
So how did you go about like knowing what to price? Because people always have questions around like, what do I charge? What, pricing. So
Yeah.
in your mind, when you're going to price out a job, what are
Mhm.
you thinking through? Not on the wedding stuff, because you kind of addressed that, but on the more of like the branding videos and some of the other
Mhm.
stuff where you're doing drones, maybe some ground cameras. Like, are you pricing that based on like the length of the finished product or how much time it's taking you to do it? Like, what do you think about, and how does that work for you?
There's a lot of different factors going in to meeting with the client and seeing what they need, because a lot of people, especially on the geographic location where we're at, they don't know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're in Northeast Florida, or and people in LA or in New York, they know exactly what they want. I would assume, just because the industry's all around and they see all of their friends and businesses getting these awesome videos. But around here, it's some of it can be a luxury for smaller companies. And then with other companies, it's not a priority. And so they need to be educated. Um, a lot of my, I guess, potential work is educating a client, meeting with them, seeing where their company's at, and then what they think they need, and then what I think they need, and align with what we both come up with. So a recent example, I I did a branding video for a pickle company.
Pickles.
Yeah, how do you
Okay.
make a video where pickles are cool and the story is great? And I'm like, okay, well, let me think about this. Let's meet. Let's talk about what you need. And she ended up, the owner of the business. She had a great game plan. She just read a book on how to story brand, and she
Okay.
asked
Is that
me.
the Donald Miller book?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Story. Yeah. Okay.
She asked me if I read it, and I said I did, and she was like, okay, well, that makes me feel so much better that you read that book, because I want to do exactly what he's talking about, create this problem and have a hero of the story and then the solution at the end and all this. And we ended up talking through this story of the whole concept of what she had was a journey of a pickle from out on
Okay.
the farmland all the
Okay.
way through, in the warehouse, and how they make this amazing pickle out of their own ingredients, and then where they ship it and how they ship it, which was through UPS. And it was a great shoot. And the final video was like 90 seconds long, and it was just awesome. So you base the pricing structure, at least for me, pre-production. You really have to find out, what it will take for that production, because it could take days. It could take an entire crew. It could take a lot of different sets, scenes, scenarios. Do we have to rent things? There's just endless possibilities depending on the budget. But if there's a small budget, you have to get creative with what you're trying to produce. And so pre-production now is the majority of what I work on. And then once we have, everything set, from the people, the places, the script, storyboard, shot list, etc., then we go out, we shoot however many days with our crew. And the editing generally doesn't take that long, because everything is so planned up front that you can just have this seamless edit. And
Now, are you editing that yourself, or do you outsource that?
I edit it myself right now. I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't want to call myself like a boutique sort of like, video producer, because like I do handle specific clients, and then I make this film, and it's all custom.
Yeah.
Um, But if I do have, like I have had in the past, other clients who just want talking head videos or just like these simple B-roll stuff, and I have hired other people to edit that because I
Gotcha.
just, it just depends on the time.
Yeah, but I mean, in the pickle scenario, you were editing that one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, so what was the final? Was it used? Did they want it for their website, or what was the kind of like final use for it?
It was website and social media.
Gotcha.
So the majority of my clients, they use it for multiple purposes, just all over the web. And then some of them, they'll do a commercial on TV.
Gotcha. So when you're thinking about like pricing, you have all these different variables, and you're thinking, are you trying to aim for like a certain, like, here's how much I want to take home, or here's what I want to like make per day or per hour? Like, what are you thinking when, as far as that goes?
Yeah, I usually have kind of like a standard, like this is what I would charge for the basics, of the bare minimum, because I don't want to pull out all my gear, charge it all up, plan all this stuff, and they have a tiny budget, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I usually like to try to feel out, okay, what are we working with here before I get into the nitty gritty? Because
yeah. So let's say today, like someone comes up to you and says, hey, I want to do like a little 60-second commercial for my website.
Mm-hmm.
What's like the bare minimum that you're not even going to like pull your stuff out for? Like, what do they need to have budget wise?
For it, I don't want to give all my secrets away.
I mean, you don't have to.
No, I'm just kidding. It's like, so freelancing is different than,
or you can just give us like a range. Like, I'm a customer and I come to you and I'm like, hey, I want to make a 60-second commercial. There's going to be drones. It's one location. I want to tell a story. I make surfboards, and I just want you to like, it's just going to be us out at the beach talking about our surfboards, and you get in some video of us surfing and telling our story. Yeah. I know you like to surf.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
If not a specific, you have a picture on the wall. So if not a specific price, like, are you trying to make like in your mind, like, cool, I want to bring home like $100 an hour for my time, or 300, or are you thinking differently? Like, my day rate is X amount of dollars. Like, what do you think?
I usually focus on day rates because, I mean, in the industry for us, like we have a specific day rates that people will charge, of course. Here's on the low end, on the high end. I mean, take home for me, I'd rather start somewhere around $2,500 to $3,000 as just kind of a basic. Here's the basic package, and then go from there. Because it's sometimes it's half day, sometimes it's full day rates, so on and so forth.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I was just trying to get like a range, like in your head, what you're trying to think.
Like, man, that was like pulling teeth here. Gosh.
Well, people want to know, Caleb, right? They're like, hey, what do other people charge? They like to get baselines. They like to have ideas of how they should think about charging stuff. Yeah. Let's say this: if you were like a new drone pilot and you were starting off, and you're primarily using drones, but let's say you started incorporating some other video production stuff. Yeah. I mean, would you? And someone asks you, hey, how much do you charge? Would you work off of like a day rate thing like you're talking about? Or would you just price it unique per project?
Once in a while when it's just like, hey, I need, because droning, obviously the batteries only last so long. So people are like, well, I only need you for like 2 hours. I do have an hourly rate. If, it's the right timing for me, if my schedule's open. And so generally I charge around $125, $150 an hour.
Gotcha. If it's like an hourly project for drones.
Half day rates go around 600 to 800, depending, and then full day is like 1,000 to 1,250 plus. So,
gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's helpful for people to kind of think through, like if they're pricing their stuff out, right? It's like, this is gonna take me all day. Here's kind of what I should be ballparking it,
Right. Yeah, you have to have a lot of batteries for half and full day, right?
If you're going to be flying that whole time, there's travel and stuff. Yeah,
sure.
Cool. So what do you, like for you, I mean, you also recently moved from Lakeland, where I am, to Jacksonville for your wife's job. What was that like as far as, did you have to find new clients? I mean, it's not that far. Was it like 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, it's like 3 hours.
Did that impact your business a lot and what you're able to do?
It has. It's kind of like, I mean, it's not starting over, but it sort of is. In a city once again. And so I kind of relate it back to when I started in Tampa with my wedding film business. I really go back to the whole basics of, anytime I have a spare moment, to dedicate to networking or reaching out to new people, I do that. And to encourage the other people who are trying, don't have any leads or are trying to get more clients or whatever, it goes back to the basic sales principle. It's all about timing, and you just need to put yourself out there constantly, and it goes back to the numbers game, but it's hard to think about that in the moment whenever you're getting rejected and or it's not working out, or people just, they don't need it, or they don't want it, or whatever, or it's not in their budget, or any type of objection can wear on a person, especially if you're trying to get work and you're wearing all the hats, producing and everything. But I would say just, continue to keep going, and, it's a daily sort of set your goals, daily, weekly, monthly, and just push and reach out to those in your own circles. Reach out to those online, market yourself online, market yourself on social media, to Google, to anything and everything. It's just kind of like, you never know who's gonna refer you. You never know how you're gonna pick up business. Like the other day, I heard from a company out of the UK, and they said, "Hey, we have this product. It's a bionic arm that we 3D printed, and we need you to tell a story over in St. Petersburg. We need you to film this girl wearing it and then talking about her experience." So I was like, all right. And all I needed to do was film it and send it over to their company, and they would edit. So of course I did my interview questions, B-roll of her, but I also added some drone shots, because I knew if I wanted to get more work from them, I would have to try to impress them and get epic shots. And so part of those epic shots come from a drone. And and so when I sent it, it was funny, in the email that I heard back, one of the things they said was, "Man, we just love the way you shot it, especially the drone shots."
Nice.
I mean, there you go. You're in the right industry, David.
Well, I mean, it seems like you're in the right industry. You're the one who's actually flying the drones and making money. So that's awesome. Cool. Well, I know we're wrapping up on time here, but one last question before we go. If people want to find out more about you. What's that?
No. I thought your last question would be, have you ever crashed?
No, I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to embarrass you on the podcast like that. I'm going to tell them about the 17 drones I've seen you crash. No, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think we had somebody we had one podcast guest be like, "Yeah, I've crashed like 24 drones." They're like, "I just have a budget to buy new drones." Wow. No, I was going to say, where can people find out more information about you if they want to see your stuff, or if they want to reach out or send you some fan mail? Where should they go?
Yeah, so I have my main website is randallproductions.com, Randall Productions. Okay. And then I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. My phone number, it's on my website.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to give your phone number if you don't want to do that. Cool. Well, yeah, Caleb's super nice guy. I'm sure you're willing to, say hey to people, but that's where you can go to look more at his stuff and see some of his cool kind of documentary style videos. And I'll try to link to your the castle wedding video in this as well, so people can see that. That's pretty cool.
In the pickle video.
In the pickle, yeah, I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen the pickle video, so I'll need to take a look.
There we go.
So cool. All right. Well, thanks, Caleb. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate being here, and Drone Launch Academy, 100%.
Take care.
You too, man. See ya.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Caleb Randall of Randall Productions. Again, Caleb's a good friend of mine. He actually worked out of my office space. If you didn't catch this in the episode, worked out of my office space with me for several years, and now lives in Jacksonville. But good friend of mine, and always loved chatting with him about drones and what he was doing. And hope you enjoyed hearing his story. and hearing about maybe you picked up a few ideas or got a little bit of inspiration about how you can go implement some of these things and go start and grow your own drone business as well. All right, that is the end of season 3. As a reminder, free t-shirt option for you. Go leave us a review, send it to me and George, and we'll get you a free t-shirt. The podcast promo code for our mini courses, so Mavic, the Mavic Mini 101, Mavic Mini 101, the Mini 2, and our Drones 101 course, all for $1 with the promo code podcast. Okay, everyone, I'll keep it short and sweet. Stay tuned for more updates on when we're coming out with more content, the Q&A, coaching content. Remember, you can win one of those calls if you want by if you enter this week that this goes live to win that with Caleb. But we'll be publishing those coaching calls and those Q&A sessions shortly. We'll probably take a small break here, but that will come out hopefully very soon, and we'll release those week by week, similar to the podcast. But thanks again. Appreciate it. See you for the bonus content from season 3, and then hopefully soon season 4. Take care, everyone.